It is. What is it? Tuesday. It's Tuesday, the 27th of May, 2025. Unbelievable. And it is a sunny, hazy day here in Israel. This video is a little bit about the Gaza ice cream shops and food markets that you may not be familiar with. This is for people who think they're familiar with the situation in Gaza, but you're not. Because, as a matter of fact, right now, if you go to the markets in Gaza right now, you will find that they are stocked. The shelves are stocked full of food. The cafes are selling coffee. They're selling espressos. They're selling cappuccinos. They're selling sandwiches and pasta salads and all kinds of typical items that you would see on a menu at any typical 2025 cafe in countries around the world. And you have all the delicious, amazing local varieties of specialties that they make in Arab culture sold in places like Gaza. They have all kinds of food. They have ice cream shops, literally multiple ice cream shops, yeah? They're open, they're running, they're selling ice cream day in and day out. Gelato, right? They like to use the Italian word. They sell it. They got all kinds of gelato shops, right? There's no shortage of them. You can find them on Google Maps. And where there are tons of places in Gaza that are marked temporarily closed because of obvious reasons, because of the war, there are also a lot of places there still open for business every single day, and they are frequented by a lot of people, and they sell to a lot of customers every single day. Now, why am I pointing this out? Am I trying to say that there is no problem with food distribution in Gaza? No, there is a problem with food distribution in Gaza. The food distribution in Gaza begins and ends, the problem begins and ends with Hamas. They have received more than 1 ton, I think almost 2 tons of food per person in Gaza since the beginning of the war, which is not even 2 years ago. How much tonnage of food does the average person use in a year? Do you think it's more than 1 ton? Right? Like, think about it. So no, there isn't a food problem there. There is a surplus of food there. In fact, they have an additional 3 to 6 months, as far as we know, in storage. They probably have more from years and years of buying and bringing in stuff, right, illegally through all the tunnels. But let's say they only have 3 to 6 months. That's 3 to 6 months. Plus, Israel has been bringing in food now for the past week, again, because of all that undue pressure they've been receiving, because of all the lies and the blood libels against the Jews. Right? There was that blood libel a week ago where the UN reporter said, or rapporteur rather, said that 14,000 Gazan babies were going to die in 48 hours, which was a bald-faced lie, and the UN had to retract that statement after he said it, and they had to say instead, actually, what he meant was up to 14,000 women and children may be at risk for malnutrition during the next year. That's very different than saying 14,000 babies are going to die within 2 days. If you don't understand the difference between that, well, then you're dumb. I'm sorry, right? 14,000 people are going to die in 2 days versus 14,000 women and children may face or are at risk of facing. 14,000 out of 2.2 million people may face malnutrition within the next year. Tell me something. Out of any country, take 1 million people, you don't think 7,000 of them might face malnutrition in the next year? Any country. I don't care if you go to Singapore. Richest country on earth, right? You don't think there's 7,000 people out of 1 million that might be facing malnutrition? I bet you there are. Go to the United States. You want to bet? It's a much higher number than that. How many people are on food stamps in America, or SNAP, or whatever they call it? Right? Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. How many people are on that? Talking tens of millions of people, right? I think it's something like 30% or 40% of kids in America, kids, not just people in general, 30 to 40% of all children in America are either on food assistance, medical assistance, or both. That's people under the age of 18 in America right now. But no, the UN got to report a lie spread around the world, which is still spreading right now, saying the Jews are killing 14,000 babies. They're starving them to death. They're going to be dead in 2 days. First of all, the report was more than a week ago. Obviously, there weren't 14,000 dead babies a week ago, 5 days ago. Didn't happen, right? Because it was a lie. But that lie is still spreading. And people are still saying, oh my God, they're going to die in 2 days. It was more than a week ago. What are you talking about? How dumb are you? The Hamas uses emotional messaging to trigger you. They trigger you to control you. They trigger you to control the narrative, and that means you. They do that because they know all they can do is win the PR war by triggering useful idiots to believe nonsense and not to care about the actual facts, and to be driven only by their emotions and their emotional reactions and their irrational emotional reactions to things that are illogical or to things that seem terrible that they caused. But they blame the other. They blame the victim. Right? Who started this? It's not difficult. They literally showed it. Right? And anybody who says, I haven't seen it, well, then you're being disingenuous, because they literally broadcast it on their GoPros, on Facebook Live, and on other social media platforms. There are still channels today full of that content that they created, like on Telegram. You can go see it in their own channels where they posted it, and it's still there today. So don't tell me you don't know. Don't tell me you haven't seen it. I haven't seen evidence. I haven't seen evidence of anyone getting raped. Oh, you need to see that? Really? So every time that you hear about somebody getting attacked in that way on the news in your country, whether it's in America or Europe somewhere, but usually in America, you have to actually see it happening to believe it really happened? Is that how you are? No, you're a liar. You're a disingenuous anti-Semitic liar. You hate Jews, right? Why don't you just admit it? Right? Why would you not require that of any other victim of such a horrible crime? But when it comes to Jews, no, then you need to see it. You're a disgusting pervert is what you are. You're sick in the head. You're twisted. You're a psychopath, and you need help. If that's the kind of thing you need to see. Think about how sick you have to be to even suggest something like that. Oh, I need to see it. First of all, there's plenty of evidence. There's no shortage of it. All right? And hundreds of military personnel and reporters and dignitaries from around the world did see it shortly after it happened in a series of special airings that the government did for those people. Right? They gathered them in different places around the world and said, you want to see it? Come see it with your own eyes. And they literally showed them hours of content that the Hamas literally created. And you can see it. It's from them. It's very obviously from them. It's from their accounts, on their Facebook pages and on their telegrams and on everything else that they use. Literally them bragging and showing off the horrible deeds they did. And most people who saw that stuff came out literally feeling ill. The revulsion one has to seeing such horror, such barbarity. But no, you want to pretend it didn't happen, right? You're sick in the head if you're going to pretend it didn't happen. You're sick in the head and you need help. You need medical help. You need a psychiatric evaluation is what you need. You need help. So when you say Israel is starving the Gazans, you're sick in the head because you refuse to look at facts. You let yourself be controlled by your emotions and irrational thoughts and spin and PR and word games that are spun and brought to you by the Hamas terrorist organization. And if you think you're smart, oh, I'm a peace activist. Really? Yeah, sure. We all want peace. It's a childish, naive way to look at the world. If you think that you can just have peace without dealing with the threat that will literally kill you, peace activist. When I see these people who are out there trans whatever for Palestine, and they're out there reading their stupid little poems that don't even rhyme because they're being modern poets. Okay, whatever. You suck at poetry. Um, and they're saying, blacks for Palestine, Asians for Palestine. We're all minorities. We all have, we should all have the same freedom. And until Palestinians are free, none of us are free. Guess what? You know who's oppressing the Palestinians? The Palestinians. Who among them? Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, and all of the groups underneath those. That's who's oppressing them. No, it's Israel. No, Israel isn't oppressing them. Israel doesn't control Area A in Judea and Samaria. Israel has joint control on Area B, right? With the PA. Joint control, that means that the PA and Israel control it together, and they control it for security reasons. But who controls the quote-unquote laws there? Right? The sort of legal system and framework that the Palestinians have established? The Palestinians control their laws. Who controls the laws in Gaza? The Hamas. Before that, it was the Palestinian Authority from 2005 until they got thrown out in 2007 after the violent overthrow by the Hamas. After the Hamas got elected with a non-majority of the vote, they won a plurality of the vote, or they won the most votes. They did not quite win the actual majority. But even if you were to say, okay, no, they won the majority, okay, that's not true, but let's just say that they did. They still took over actually in a violent coup because there was a legal dispute about the election result. And they didn't agree with the legal dispute, so they just used violence to end the process sooner. And so began their reign of terror. And what can you expect from a bunch of dolts who choose such people to lead them? Right? Would you expect anything different? No, of course not. People who choose terrorists to lead them, they're obviously dumb as doornails. What would you expect from them? And not just terrorists, Islamist extremist terrorists. They literally want to take over the world. And all these useful idiots out there saying Gazans are starving, while Gazans are in coffee shops and ice cream shops getting fat on ice cream and coffee at extremely high markups, which the Hamas charges them, which is a war crime. Because the Hamas steals the food aid, then sells it to the market. Both of those things are crimes. And then they actually charge a high markup on it. They don't just charge market fees. No, they charge like 10 times the price for a lot of things. That's another war. It's 3 war crimes right there. Right? So there's a food distribution problem in Gaza. There isn't a food problem coming from the fact that they're not getting food. No, they're getting plenty of food and medicine. Right? They have tons of it. Many, many tons of it. And they keep sending in more. That's not the problem. And it's a lie. And when England and France and whoever the hell else it was it Germany? I don't know, some other country, said, Israel's causing a horrible problem. Denmark, what's it? Holland? I forget. Some idiotic third country. Ireland, maybe. Probably Ireland. Condemned Israel for not giving enough food to the Hamas terrorist organization. Right? Saying that Israel's causing these problems. Maybe it was Spain. Who knows? It was some country that hates Jews historically. Even if they don't now, supposedly, in theory. Let's be real. For hundreds of years before, they did, openly. And that kind of shit lingers. And it's exactly times like this when we see it come out. Oh no, how dare you say that? The British are super friendly with Israel. Right, sure. Maybe they were for a period of time because of guilt. And then now that they've been invaded by Islamists who are taking over their country, right? That's what happens when you have an open door policy and you allow in extremists who will overthrow your system of government, and they'll use your government against you to overthrow your system of government, and you're okay with it. You're like, well, that's democracy. Yeah, that's a stupid democracy. If you can't put in safety guardrails in your system of government that say we can prevent people from coming in and trying to overthrow our system of government by, in replacing it with an extremist form of Islamism, right, or any other fundamentalist religion that doesn't believe in freedom of speech, that doesn't believe in freedom of religion, that doesn't believe in equality between the genders or the sexes, right? That doesn't believe in any of these things, protection of minorities. If you can have a system of government that allows that, then your system of government, sorry to tell you, is stupid, and it needs to be improved. And by improved, I mean it needs to be changed radically. And if you can't change it radically to improve it, then you're not really running a good government. You're running a form of idiocracy. Right? It really is that simple. It really, really is that simple. And it is a clown show. If you're allowing your enemies to take over your country democratically, oh, it's democratic. We're allowing them to it's a democracy. They have the right to their expression. Their right to their expression shouldn't include their right to overthrow your form of government. Now, you want to change the form of government through the judicial process and have the actual people vote on it, right? And if your country is crazy enough to decide to actually want to become not free, well, then that's one thing. But even that, to be perfectly honest, why would you give people who may or may not have a good political education, why would you give them the freedom to get rid of your system that gives them the freedom to get rid of the system? Why would you give them that ability? And now, I'm not saying I'm anti-democratic. I'm not. I'm pro-democratic. I'm pro-democracy. But I'm not pro-suicide. I'm not pro-harming yourself just because, we want to be democratic about it. That's not how that works. That's not how that works at all. If you don't know how to protect your own assets, right? If you don't know how to cover your own interests, protect your own interests, and not just allow your society to end itself, then what kind of society do you have? You have an idiotic society. Like 100%, not a little bit. Your society is idiotic. Right? Well, how do I say that? Why do I say that? Well, I say that because it's true. If you allow your society to be overthrown by people who will not grant you the same freedoms that you have today, and you're just letting them do it in the so-called name of democracy, then your democracy is dumb, and or you are dumb for allowing it. It's really that simple. Like, it's not a difficult formula here. There's not much to figure out. This isn't a trick question. Right? If you can't figure that out, then you done something wrong. Right? You didn't learn diddly squat in political science class or history or culture. Right? You failed. Objectively, you failed at learning about the differences between cultures. Again, you want to say that people should have the equality to practice whatever their religion is? Yes, absolutely. But don't tell me that all religions are the same. They're not. They're not the same. Right? All religions may have a dark past. That's also true. Certainly the Abrahamic religions, all of them have dark backstories and everything else, histories periods of time when they've done terrible things. Absolutely, they have. I don't think anyone would pretend that they didn't. But also, Judaism and Christianity, for example, have both gone through dark ages and have both had a kind of a renaissance, right, and have had a period of enlightenment and have had periods of time when they've improved their situation as a religion, right, and made it better, right? They improved it over time. Like, if you look at the modern interpretations today, right, of what modern Judaism is, it's nothing like it was 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, etc., right? Anybody who says it isn't being honest, because it's really not like that at all. By the way, when life gives you lemons, make lemon stuff. In case you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm collecting lemons here, and I put them out so people can take them as they walk by. A lot of lemons, so I'd rather give them to good people who want some lemons. Yeah, if you think that modern Islam has gone through the Renaissance and Enlightenment period, well, they haven't. They're still having their dark age right now, and they've been having it for a couple of 100 years, unfortunately, and it's taking them a while to get it. And the problem is that the power of the individual in those last couple of 100 years has exploded, literally, to levels that were never possible for human beings before. And so now the individual who wants to act in the so-called name of God and do a bad thing has much more power and ability to do it. And that's unfortunate because it means it can lead to a lot more violence and death and destruction. And yes, you can look at cases like, the two Israeli embassy staffers whose lives were cut short just the other day in Washington, D.C. by that psychopath who shot them many times because he just wanted to kill Jews, right? He just wanted to kill people affiliated with the Jewish people and or Israel. Didn't even care if they were themselves Jewish or not. He just, whoa, they're coming out of the Jewish museum, therefore they're viable targets for me. Whether they're Jewish or not, whether they're Israeli or not, but they obviously were. Embassy staffers, as we found out later, of the Israeli embassy, right? One of them was like Israeli and German or something like that, the guy. And the girl was from Kansas. The woman was from Kansas. And they were a couple, and they were apparently he was planning to propose to her this week here in Jerusalem and here in Israel. And obviously they never got the chance because they were cut down in their prime, which is a horrible thing. And that is just an active shooting, which that is a terrible, horrible, murderous act of shooting, which that power existed since the gun was invented, right? Since the handgun was invented. But now people obviously have much more powerful tools available to them. And that's the part that's actually worrying, right? That's the part that's actually dangerous. Like, not, yes, of course it's dangerous. A handgun is dangerous. It can end lives. But when somebody can blow up something that can take out a half a city or a whole city or more, anybody who pretends that it isn't is being dishonest, to say the least. So that's what I wanted to talk about. There are ice cream shops and coffee shops and restaurants and food markets open right now in Gaza. Right now. During the fighting. Right now. And they're stocked completely. And they have customers out the door every day. And why do I mention it? I mention it to remind you there is not a food problem in terms of getting food to Gaza. There isn't. There just isn't. There's a food problem in terms of the distribution of food aid and medical aid that goes into Gaza that the Hamas hijacks. And by the way, now, reportedly, they've been able to hijack less of it because apparently they are having problems. I'm sure it's just temporary. Their staff, right? So their local terrorist gangs are not willing to go out and do the tasks they've been assigned, like steal the food and the medical aid, because they're not being paid. So they'd rather go to the shopping malls instead of go steal food. Right? They'd rather go get food at less than ridiculous prices, which their organization is charging. Right? If this all doesn't make sense to you, I don't know what to tell you. You're getting fooled. So learn a thing is my friendly suggestion. Learn a thing about what's going on in the reality. Anyway, that's going to do it for now, folks. I'll talk to you later. Peace.